if you're going to join the military, then probably plan on deploying at some point. It's not, like I said, it's not going to always be a deployment. Like I said, I've never deployed, but don't come into it expecting not to deploy. Expect to deploy. If you don't deploy, then you don't deploy. Welcome to my life as I live it. I'm Army Princess, the mother, wife, and soldier, and I want to share this journey with you. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe now so you don't miss a moment of it. Hey everybody, it's Army Princess here and welcome back to my channel. So for you all who are watching me for the very first time, I am a U.S. Army soldier. I've been in the military for over 10 years now and I love to share my experiences with you. And I do have playlists, so if you have not seen my playlist, make sure you definitely click on the playlist. I have them listed below because I have different type of playlists like marriage in the military, basic training playlist. We just recently moved from Georgia to Virginia, so I have that move. So make sure you definitely check out the playlist before you ask a question, because some of your questions may be answered in my playlist. But this question is, how often do you deploy? And it's a question, like I said, that I get often enough that I felt the need to make a video on it. But it is a loaded question, and it's a question that's, it's not a one sentence answer to this question because it's based off of many factors. And for example, like I said, I've been in the military for over 10 years and I have never deployed. I don't know if it's just the luck of the draw or probably mostly based off my job and the assignments that I've been to. But like I said, there are many different factors that can determine if you deploy, how often you deploy, and what you will be doing when you deploy. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about my career and my deployment career. So like I said, I have never deployed. I've been in the military. It will be 12 years. It's coming January and I have not deployed. I almost deployed once, but I have not deployed yet. And I think it's mostly based on my job and the places that I have been stationed. So in my experience, like I said, I haven't deployed, but for example, my husband, he has deployed quite a few times. So it just depends on the job and your experience. So I would say there are about three main factors that could determine if you deploy and how often you deploy. The number one factor being your job. So my job is medical, but I am a pharmacy technician. For you all who don't know, or maybe the first time watching me, I'm a pharmacy technician, and usually, typically, pharmacy technicians don't really deploy. If they do, then it's not very often. You probably have to be at a unit that deploys a lot, or most likely attached to a unit that's going to be deploying. But just to come in as a regular pharmacy technician, you probably won't deploy too often. The other big factor that could be a determining factor on if you deploy is the unit, and this is almost probably bigger than the first factor, like I said, because you can have a job that's not really a deployable job, but if you're in a unit that's deploying a lot or attached to a unit that's deploying a lot, then of course you're going to go with them and you're going to deploy with them and do your job with them. The other thing that could be a determining factor on if you deploy or not is your medical status or your medical readiness. So in the military, our main goal is to deploy and fight the bad guys. So that's the mission. But if you are medically not capable of doing it, then of course you can't deploy. So people's medical statuses change all the time depending on, like me, for example, I'm pregnant. So because I'm pregnant, I'm non-deployable for the whole time I'm pregnant, and then for 6 months, about 6 months after I come back from maternity leave. So, not maternity leave, I'm able to take a PT test. So for that whole time, I'm not deployable. So even if I was attached to a unit that's deploying, I wouldn't deploy with them. I would stay back. So say for example, I had knee surgery. Of course, I'm not going to be able to run. I'm not going to be able to move too much because I will be just getting done with knee surgery. So through the time that I'm having my knee surgery and my recovery period, I won't be able to deploy. So if I was attached to a deployable unit or a deploying unit, then I would not deploy with them. I would stay back. So those are the three determining factors on how often you deploy and if you deploy. So I'm going to kind of give you some examples of jobs that I would say deploy more often than others. This is not this is definitely not limited to these jobs, but these are jobs that come to mind that I usually see deploying more often than other jobs. Jobs like Intel, of course, they probably really need those jobs in a deployment environment. Medical jobs, like a medic or someone who's going to be saving people's lives, actually saving people's lives. Doctors, nurses, of course, those people are deployed very often, more often than a pharmacy technician. Truck drivers, those have a high deployment rate because they need you over there to drive the trucks to get the supplies to where they're going, to move the people to where they're going. And usually a truck driving job, they give you a big bonus because they need people over there. So if you probably come in and you probably get a big bonus to be a truck driver, it's probably because you'll probably be deploying more often than not. Other jobs like MP or military police. So I could foresee those people going over there more often because of course you need police, you need people to patrol the area. And so those type of jobs are more deployable than other jobs. And like I said, it's not limited to these jobs. It's not that if you have one of these jobs, you're going to deploy more often than not. It's just an overall general list to give you guys an idea of jobs that I've seen in my career that do deploy more often or more consistently than some of the other jobs that are out there. There's also different lengths of times of deployment. So there's short tours and long tours. Not all are considered deployments, but some people might call them a deployment. Like for example, if you go to Korea, it's usually a 1-year tour. It's not, I wouldn't consider it a deployment, but some people consider it a deployment. You could go to like Kuwait for 1 year. That is kind of, to some people, considered a deployment or a tour. But typically, usually, deployments are based off of where you're going and the length of time that you're there. But they could be different lengths of time. People come back early from deployments. People get extended on their deployments. So it's not one set length of time. But yeah, those are the gist of deployments. I got a question about somebody saying that they wanted to become a doctor, but they weren't sure if they were going to deploy a lot in the military if they were a doctor. And they were asking me how often would they deploy. And like I said, like I just broke it down to y'all, deployments are based on so many different things, so many different factors. It's hard for me to say if you're going to deploy, when you're going to deploy, and how often you're going to deploy, because it depends on your job, it depends on where you're stationed, it depends on your medical status, it depends on the unit you're assigned to. So make sure you keep all of those things in mind when you're thinking about deployments. But I would put this information out to you. If you're going to join the military, then probably plan on deploying at some point. It's not, like I said, it's not gonna always be a deployment. Like I said, I've never deployed, but don't come into it expecting not to deploy. Expect to deploy. If you don't deploy, then you don't deploy. But you shouldn't come into it and say, well, I want to join, but I don't want to deploy, because there's probably more often than not chance that you will deploy at some point. And it's just something that you want to make sure you know going into it, that there's a possibility that you could deploy. So I just want to put that out there. I want people to know that if you join, there's probably a possibility that you're going to deploy, and you should probably you should probably come into it with the mind frame that you may deploy so that you can mentally prepare yourself for it. So that's it, guys. That's all that I have for you. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope this helped you. I hope this, you know, kind of eased you a little bit and gave you just a little more background knowledge on deployments and how they work. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
Hey, if you want to see more videos like this, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like, what are you waiting on? Go now.